But I think with that being said, let's dive a little bit deeper. Let's get to the Rotten Tomatoes, the IMDb, and the synopsis. This movie, Avatar: The Way of Water, currently has a 78% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, lower than the original Avatar, which holds an 82%. Audiences have the sequel at 94% approval rating. IMDb has it at 8.1 out of 10, and it has an A on Cinema Score. All right. Synopsis reads: set more than a decade after the events of the first film, Avatar: The Way of Water begins to tell the story of the Sully family, with Jake and Atiri returning along with their kids, the trouble that follows them, the lengths they go to keep each other safe, the battles they fight to stay alive, and the tragedies they endure. Heavy, heavy, heavy family elements and themes to this movie, along with like just overall nature and I guess the sea and then the creatures that are there and how we need to take care of them. Ricky Flicks, I guess if we want to start at the beginning here, maybe go through your theatrical experience. We don't have to go into too much Oppenheimer and too much Ant-Man or anything like that. But I guess overall, what was your experience like? I know I saw it alongside you, along with our parents and your girlfriend. Tell me about your experience.
I won't mention the trailers, or I won't mention, but
It's
actually
sarcastic.
inside the movie, I think it goes back to what we were saying before. The 3D wasn't like a predominant thing. Like it was cool side effects, right? If there was like debris or something, it wasn't like coming at you. It was just like, it was in the crowd. It wasn't like overflowing, like taking over the screen, and that's what you're thinking first and foremost. Is the 3D? It's like, no, we're thinking of the movie first, and then that's just enhancing it. And again, I give credit to James Cameron on this one. Very well done. So theater wise, great there. This is the bad part. It was so long. This
Yeah.
movie was really long. It was beautiful, great to look at, but holy crap. This movie could have been 2 hours. Like it was
Yeah.
great.
Honestly.
We're in this IMAX theater that gets hot. It's like you're getting tired. I felt my eyes get tired. I like a lot of what other 3 hour movies have we seen? Or close to 3 hours. Like Tar is
Batman.
really long. The Batman, my eyes never got that tired. My eyes were so tired. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I was
Like, what about you? Like, am I crazy here?
Well, no, you're not. First of all, I want to say the theater was packed. It was sold out, IMAX 3D. There was the buzz even outside the theater, people walking into the AMC, like there was a buzz everywhere. But not only was there, like, did I feel fatigue, I looked around and it felt like the theater was having some fatigue, whether it be in the
Doc
middle
Senior
of
was
the
asleep
movie,
during the movie.
the second act, right? It felt like it really takes its time. It really ingratiates you into this new part of Pandora. The third act, I felt like I saw Stephen Lang holding a knife to someone's throat maybe 7 different times. I feel like they were like replaying scenes that happened so many times. And I think this movie's really guilty. I guess I should say James Cameron's really guilty of just loving himself too much. He just it seemed like the visuals played such a focus in this movie, and we knew they were going to, but it felt like he was like showing off to say to everyone, look what I created, look, this was worth it, this is why this movie is these characters in this world is worth exploring with movie upon movie. It just seemed like, look at me, look at me. And it's like kind of goes with the idea of the first Avatar. It's less about like the names that are appearing in the movie, but more about what you are getting as a theatrical experience and what James Cameron has created. So I think that's not necessarily a bad thing because it did look amazing. I thought this movie did a little bit better job too. Something we criticized, like going to initial reactions here. Um, we criticized like we didn't really care for the characters in the first Avatar. We have a hard time memorizing names. Here, I can't say I memorize all the kids' names, but I did care about the characters more. I really did. Sully and Natiri and like their relationship with their children, the children's relationship with one another, and their relationships to the sea and the animals and this new peoples in Pandora that they're interacting with. I think it really took a focus on the visuals, the character development themselves, which I think was absent from the first movie, but the story itself was still like most like what we saw from the first Avatar. The writing is very generic. It seemed like they didn't know how to end the movie. It just seemed like it was a classic James Cameron movie that you're gonna have a great time at the theater, but you're not watching a Scorsese production here. Right? You're not watching some wonderfully crafted story. Yes, we're exploring this new world, but it ain't no masterpiece, right? It's all about what you're seeing with the eyeballs here, and sometimes that's okay. That's a trait of a pretty successful blockbuster.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because today, so past couple days, well, I had time to reflect. Now, James Cameron's only done like 8 full feature length movies. Okay,
Mhm.
Piran doesn't count. He left that after like 2 weeks on set. That doesn't count, or whatever that one is. Like whatever. But I did a few rewatches over the weekend. I rewatched True Lies on Peacock. I rewatched The Terminator, and then Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Okay, True Lies definitely didn't know how to end the movie, and the dialogue was horrendous. It's a fun watch, but yeah. Okay, The Terminator. Holy crap! I used to be a T2 guy over the Terminator guy. I might change back. The Terminator, awesome.
It's amazing.
Under 2 hours. It's just like it's so efficient,
Tighter.
yet action oriented. Arnold's a presence that is just amazing. Barely says anything, but like nothing too corny. Like very like
Bar
compared to
scene.
T2, like very well done. Linda Hamilton is in Linda Hamilton, and then T2 like it suffers some sequel tropes because it has to like kind of expand, but also end the franchise because like that thought it was gonna be the last one, right? So like kind of like it ran a little long, and like you knew how you had to end it, but in the middle, it's like you had to solve a bunch of stuff in this universe. In this one, it's like this is a sequel, but there weren't any sequel tropes. But you kept expanding the universe like you do, like when you get introduced to the universe, and you're
Mhm.
introducing new characters, new cultures, and it's like I'm worried with the next one because the next one you're thinking, oh, we'll stay in the water. They're a part of this community now. But you're hearing rumors that like they're going towards 4 hours, not 3 hours
Yeah.
in the next movie. And that scares me because you're right. They did not know how to end this. The third act was so much fun, as in the action and the sequences there, amazing. But holy crap, the last 35, 40 minutes was the same thing in a circle, nonstop. And it was just so inefficient versus like the Terminator. That confirmed like one of the best action movies of all time. I'm an over T2 guy now. Like I was so impressed. But this just like did not follow that at all. So many inefficiencies. Just to go on to what you said, I totally agree with everything you said as well. And also just one thing with the kids, totally agree with you. Can't remember any of their names, but this movie was around them.
Yeah.
Like Jake
Mhm.
Scully and Zoe Saldana's character, barely any lines. I these people saying what performances. I'm like, what are you talking about? They have one scene where they got emotional, and that you're gonna give them an Oscar for that? Like, what are we doing here? But the kids, this was about them, and I actually thought that was pretty well done. Conventional, yes. Long, yes. Inefficiencies, yes. But it was pretty good, and I don't remember the names, but I did like that.
I think to kind of go along with like you're talking about like James Cameron tropes, like the story really takes a back seat here. Like the whole revenge plot, right? Like of with Quaritch, right, who dies in the first movie. He's like replaced with an avatar that restores his memories somehow, and he's trying to get revenge on Jake Sully. Like you kind of like in the first act of the movie, they like introduce this idea, right? But at the same time, like you go an hour and a half or like an hour without like hearing from Quaritch or Spider, who is his son, who's basically being used as like bait or like a hostage or someone to help lead, right, Quaritch and his team, like his SEAL team or whatever, to Jake Sully, right? And but like it's so obsessed in becoming a nature doc and almost like taking you into like the best aquarium that you could ever like be a part of for an entire hour. And I honestly didn't hate it because it was so beautiful, you know. And I like there was some like that. Those are some of my favorite moments. The third act, some of the action sequences were mind blowing and unlike anything I've ever seen in a movie theater. But then also, right, just like the relationship to nature that you feel while you're watching it. Some people are gonna hate it, no doubt, right? But I just love watching amazing visuals on screen. And it's amazing the CGI they pull off legitimately underwater, and like the product on screen is truly something else. I guess going into the story here, what do you think about like this idea of the people in the sky, right? The humans coming back after the events of the first movie, and Jake Sully on the run and Quaritch like trying to get revenge as an avatar here. Did you like where this direction the story took, and looking into the future as well?
I liked Quaritch's character, Stephen Lang. I did like him.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
talk about him.
Um, I wish there was more of him. Like you said, there's the second act was a huge lull without him. Massive lull. You
Yeah,
honestly forgot about him. Like it's
yeah,
kind of
he just
crazy.
didn't show up.
Um, his sidekick, not good. Spider, not good. That was bad.
Sidekick, his son.
Yeah, that wasn't good. I wish they didn't do that. Um, I could see something
Polarizing part of the
happening.
movie.
Yeah, he wasn't very good. But the overall story about family all makes sense. I like how there's consequences in this. Like overall, I did like it, but like as in like the overall theme and everything. But like you mentioned with Quaritch, like the revenge on Jake Scully, like the whole
Sully,
point.
Sully, Sully.
Sully, I keep saying Sully. The whole point why they're on Pandora is for these resources, right? It's all about capitalism basically. But now we're getting into like environmental themes. We're getting into like just revenge on Jake Sully. Like we got to focus on why we're there. Why are we going to them? Like yes, he's the leader of the Navi, right? But he left the Navi. He left the resources. So like we don't have to like it doesn't make sense. Like, it really didn't
Right.
make sense overall. But you got to have a story. What I'm confused about is now going on potentially not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, 7 movies. It can't all be about revenge. So moving forward, what are we doing from here? Because you already used the revenge card. And now what are we doing? Are we going to a different community? Are we doing solely like I'm not going to spoil anything. So I was going to leave it there.
So I'll start with what I thought about Quaritch because he is basically an '80s action star. When we did the throwback Predator, no, throwback Avatar review, I basically called him like he thinks he's in Predator. Like, and he took the same approach here with the macho, like militaristic type of lingo and slang that he's using, like with his teammates once they're put into Avatar form. And I have a feeling like what his character is going to be, like go off like semi like James Cameron tropes here. Like he might be like the next Terminator. Like he might be the next Arnold where he just comes back in different forms and he is just relentless, right? You can just take another form of an avatar. They have the memories, right? He has like with those memories, he still has the drive and motivation to take down a Jake Sully. I was kind of surprised at this story. It felt much more like micro, right? It's like it's just basically a revenge tale rather than, as you said, like, yeah, you got the resources, you're back, you can basically take over. Sully's not really an issue. So, like, my problem with the story is that they're putting so much time into like the people from the sky, right? The humans trying to take down Sully, but he's not a threat whatsoever. You know, he's not interested in fighting the humans in the sky. I guess it almost is like when you're trying to find like a drug cartel, like I guess like boss, like I don't know, like it's like you're trying to track him down even though they're not in the game anymore. Like he's not a threat. I don't understand. Maybe it's because the potential he could come back to help, I guess. But like they put a lot of resources in that third act was pretty massive for basically a one-on-one that what we were looking for, or just one guy trying to take down the family. So to me, it just went really large scale and it felt like a huge battle that didn't have to be so big when you're basically trying to track down one guy, you know,
Mm.
and like, but I know you bring in this other like people like from Pandora, aside from the Navi or a different, I guess, sector of the Navi or different type of peoples. And so like you're expanding the world, but like, do they really have to be involved? Like this doesn't really add up to me. It just felt the third act felt bigger than it had to.
Yeah, and now it's just because we mentioned Quaritch so much. I'm just thinking about other characters now. I mentioned like Zendaya, Zoe Saldana,
Materi?
and it was Natiri, and then Jake Sully, Sam Worthington. Like they're not even in like if I had to do a power rankings like after this movie, like they wouldn't even be in the top 5. I'm trying to think like Quaritch definitely would be. I would actually have one of the Tolkiens, the big whales,
Yeah, I would
in
have
my power.
the
Like
Tacum. Yeah, I would take.
the Coons.
Yeah, I would take the whale too. Like
Yeah,
100%. One
the
of the best
whale. I would
characters.
put the whale, Quaritch. Um,
The one of the sons from Sully and Natiri is very annoying, and you get pretty
yes,
agitated with him by his actions in the movie. But I think he actually did an excellent job. I thought he was actually really
yes.
good.
I don't think that was the character's fault or the actor's fault. The writing of the repetitiveness and inefficiencies that are alluded to, that's definitely one of them. And I guess just like another thing, just because we're mentioning inefficiencies here, There were a lot of things that weren't closed, and I'm not saying closed as in closing a franchise. I'm saying like stories within the movie that should be closing within this movie. You know, like there was a romance that like kind of never fully developed, but like didn't like hint at in the next for the third one either. So it didn't like give us anything. It like hinted at it, but like only briefly. And you're just like waiting on that. And it's like 3.5 hour movie. It's like it should come back at some point, but it's not coming back. And there's other things that happen like that in this movie where I was getting a little frustrated because not getting any closure. And yes, I don't want closure that is like, oh, this is going to happen at the end of the franchise. Like, no, just like at least like give us a little head start going into the third one. Give us some more lagging hints or something like that. Development. Give us more development.
Yeah, and like you expect more from a 3-hour movie. Like you expect like them to close things up a little more efficiently rather than leaving so many question marks, especially from a movie we've waited 13 years for. And James Cameron has said he wants to make potentially like 6 or 7 sequels of this movie or a pass on, right, a successor, right, to this franchise, take up the mantle for Avatar. But like, and he's mentioned like this, if this movie doesn't succeed, there's going to be a third, like the third film does have a variation on ending on for like to make this a trilogy rather than 7 movies. Do you think if you had to make a prediction, do you think this is going to end with the next movie, or do you think they're going to find a way to extend it into this huge, massive, almost like I guess mega franchise like we've seen with this universe building, like we've seen the MCU and DC? Do you think that's coming for James Cameron's Avatar?
So like good things come in threes, right? Like trilogies, like you got to end it after a trilogy. I don't think so. I think I like you hear rumors that even if this makes over $1 billion, it's not going to make it a profit. I don't think so. I've seen figures closer to 500 or 400 million, and this made that worldwide 435 million, I think, weekend to internationally. So it broke even this weekend, and it's only going to go up. I think this is going to make $1 billion, personally,
Yeah. Well,
worldwide.
yeah, definitely.
So I think this is profiting, and they already made the third one, and I think the fourth one was already like started.
They
Am I
shot most
wrong
of it, I'm
there?
pretty sure.
Yeah. So why would they just scrap that? This isn't HBO Max when we're just ending things. I think they'll keep going, and seven seems like a lot, but maybe five after five they stop, maybe. Because at some point James Cameron, he's 68 years old. I don't think he'll trust anybody with his baby here. I really don't. So I think maybe after five we'll stop.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone can kind of achieve what James Cameron wants. We know he's a perfectionist. We know he demands a lot from those who work with him. I don't know if who he can trust at that level, right, to execute his baby, because this is his baby, and you see how much he cares about it from the press he's done, how passionate he is, and he really wants it to succeed. Um, I guess before we get into scores, I just think I want to go into like other qualms we have with the movie because we already know technically it's sound. Character development improves from the first movie. But like story-wise too, I would have loved to seen this go into like maybe a war or like with different peoples of Pandora. Like maybe the humans aren't involved as much. Right. I think this movie did a great job actually, because I thought the weak points of the first Avatar is when Jake Sully leaves the chamber and you got like Giovanni Ribisi like chopping it up with Stephen Lang and some really like atrocious dialogue. They narrowed those scenes down. Mainly it takes place in Pandora, which I loved. But like I thought we were going almost like you can go like a Lord of the Rings type of route where you're going to different places in Pandora, rivaling peoples maybe that have a historical type of rivalry. Like I didn't think we were going to go from this big scale conflict, right, into like this idea of colonialism and colonization, excuse me, and instead like we get this revenge story, almost like Terminator-esque. Like to me, like if you want to like really break this thing open, you got to like explore like potential war, right? And it can't just be the same thing where it's the humans versus the Navi. Like that happened already, and this is just building off that same story, I guess. I guess in a minor way, but at the same time, it should feel a little bit bigger. You know, it's not falling for usual sequel tropes where you just explode everything up and then it ends in a massive CGI battle. You have the massive CGI battle, but at the same time, The conflict doesn't feel nearly as high stakes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I in the beginning of the movie, they went right into the colonialism theme there once again.
It was like
Sky people coming
we
down.
spent we spent a movie on this, and we're 10 years away, and just the same thing's happening again.
I was surprised that they jumped right into it. Obviously, the sky people always will be a threat, but it's like they totally discounted everything Avatar 1 did. Almost. It's like, oh, we're just doing it again. It's just
Yeah,
like,
it's like
why
you
are we
fought for
doing it?
nothing, and he doesn't even get to stay with his wife in the colony. I'm like, okay, I guess whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a big qualm. I so because a revenge stories only go so far, and if you're making 7 of these, what are you gonna do? A war? That's a great idea. Political battles, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings esque. Maybe unite the kingdoms, unite the planet against the Sky People, but there's quarrels there. That's a great idea. I think that's a way you can expand this into this mega franchise. Um, Another qualm I have. Sigourney Weaver. We haven't brought her up yet. In
Mhm.
this movie, I think Sigourney Weaver's all-time action star, all-time actor. She's not bad in this, but she plays a kid. And that's another one that wasn't they tried to develop it. They just didn't do a great job with it. In my eyes, her character. And it just seemed off the entire time.
She
And
didn't
as we
sound like a
went through
teenager, dude. She
she
sounded like
didn't
a 60-year-old. I'm like, am I supposed to
mm,
think she's like 14? Because I think she's 60. She just sounds like Sigourney Weaver. Sigourney Weaver's like, I sat in a classroom of like high school kids to find out what it's like. Well, like you're not a regular high schooler here. You're from the Navi, but you still sound 60. Like, why couldn't you recast it? Like, why couldn't you pick someone that's just like, I guess I don't know. You don't even need someone who looks like Sigourney Weaver. You could have just done a whole different character. It makes no sense to me. Like it's a mind-boggling decision.
yeah, and there's some spoilers I won't get into with like who's father, who's uh the the mother of certain characters, but I have my
Yeah.
theories that I thought they were going to jump to in this movie, but they didn't. So maybe they're waiting on that for the future movies. But yeah, it didn't work. And her, what she becomes in the movie, you saw it coming, but it's not explained well whatsoever, like at all.
Mhm.
And you could say it wasn't explained, and you'd be like, "Oh, it's open for interpretation." No, no, you have to. Everything's explained in Pandora because it's so different. You have hair plugging into spirits. You have hair plugging into animals. Like you got to explain some stuff. So I think they did a bad job there as well. Um, Other qualms. I think we went a lot in other qualms. Kate Winslet, I will say she played the wife of the king of the water people, the Melanchon or whatever they're called. Uh, Limited screen time. I thought she was good when she got it,
Yeah.
and I think the husband, her husband in this, Cliff Curtis, Training Day, the Training Day, the gangster in Training Day, where like Ethan Hawke's he pushes Ethan Hawke in the tub, is about to kill him, but he
Mhm.
finds the wall. That guy, good, also good.
Strong.
Yeah, I will say those are powerful, but like if you're introducing us to this world and you're focusing on the kids here, then next movie, let's expand more and like let's see more Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, and Cliff Curtis and Kate Winslet, and like let's see more of these adult figures now if we're gonna be doing this.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I thought Cliff Curtis was honestly like that's a top five performance in the movie, maybe even top three. I thought he was great, and he got a majority of screen time. Also, James Cameron movies, we know like sometimes he'll give he'll give like he's given Sigourney Weaver her due, right? It's a female led action star. But a lot of James Cameron movies have like the big like masculine figure at the forefront of them. Okay, that happens a lot. So it's like that's not really changing that much in this movie with a lot less female dialogue here. I think my major quarrel is the whole Spider and Quaritch dynamic in this movie. I think that was done terribly. And I don't think it like in terms of the writing of this movie, like we have this like we know it's technologically super advanced, right? And this is like taking place in the future, so it's like okay, we are going to restore the memories of Quaritch into this avatar, and he's going to go hunt down Sully. So he has these feelings of emotion, of anger towards Sully, but he feels nothing towards his son, you know? Like it's just like you don't have any memories at all of your son, like him being born or anything like that. Like I don't know if he missed his son being born. I don't really understand that. I don't know if that was explained at the end of Avatar. I don't think so. And I was just like,
No.
and I was just like, was like he must have known that he had a kid. Like how could he have not have
Who
any?
slept with Quaritch? Let's.
Yeah, and
Who did?
that's another theory too. It's just like where is this coming from? And it feels like okay, this is just a way that we can bring him back. It felt like really like okay, we need this guy back because Stephen Lang was a strong proponent, like a strong, I guess, figure character in the first movie. So let's bring him back to be like a Terminator-esque guy here. But it's like it just didn't make sense to me how he can feel emotion from the memories he has, even though it's not the same body. But he can't remember the emotions he has when his son was born, and he feels nothing towards him. Like to me, it's like, come on, like event. Like to me, it doesn't fit the story, And it's just, I do want to say though, it kind of felt nice just to have a regular bad guy, just like an action hero bad guy, where it's not like, oh, you can kind of see his motivations. No, this guy is just evil. He's just a bad dude, right? He's like that's like James Cameron movies. You got the hero, you got the villain, right? Boom. And there's nothing complicated here. The story's not too crazy, but that was just nice to see. I think it's just like, yeah, like sometimes it's just easy. Like the simpler way is sometimes the best way.
Yeah, and they definitely added like the story with Spider and the son element, uh, just for his character development, especially if you're going to do a mega franchise, 7 films like this. Like they definitely added it for that, but I agree with you, it didn't work very well. I thought so. My thinking was Quaritch died in the Avatar. Spoiler
Yep.
alert, but you know that. Um, but he didn't know he had a son at the time, and then he found out later on, like this whatever you call Avatar, this Avatar clone of Quaritch. He found out, oh, I have a son, but the real Quaritch didn't know. That's what I interpreted, but maybe I was wrong on that. Um, I don't know. I guess that's so. I won't give him too much. Like, why doesn't he have emotions? Because like he didn't know, and like
That
technically,
might be
it
it.
isn't it. It
I
isn't.
thought about that, but I was just like, how could he not know? And like, how was this not hinted at in the first Avatar? And this is a way to bring him back. That's what I think it was,
Mm,
honestly.
yeah, but
And
I do agree with you. It is nice just to have a bad guy, like normal bad
you just
guy.
point at me like that's a bad guy.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I prefer him, Stephen Lang and Quaritch, in this movie 10 times over Avatar.
Yeah.
I liked him in this.
I liked him as the Avatar, as the blue guy,
Yeah,
and then, like someone who doesn't understand the body, but like he still has the militaristic mindset. Like I'm just gonna figure this out, and I'm just an alpha. I'll figure it out.
literally.
I'm not gonna do it the right way, right? I'm just gonna get the job done. That's like his mentality. He brought that whether he's wearing like he's in the Avatar or not. Um, Last thing I'll say, something that like I wasn't anticipating, and it's something I didn't want to see as much is like with the 3 hour runtime. I was thinking we spent a lot of time in the first Avatar just kind of exploring Pandora, all right, and it's more of a romance type of like film for at least the second act, but here it was like we're now just like going through the same, I guess, template as Avatar, where we're just exploring and like having fun in the visuals here. And we did get a little bit more with the characters. There's a little bit better job incorporating like the visuals with the character development. But at the same time, you're just wasting so much time. It felt like that's what drew people away from the first Avatar, and you're just making the same mistakes here. So I would like the third movie just to get down to business, right? You can still have the visuals here and still have fun with it, but at the same time, like, yo, we've done a long time just staring at the screen with minimal dialogue. I think we can have something. We can get like a little more. I guess we can just get it moving a little bit.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think these are very similar. I'm not trying to transition to scores yet, but these are very similar. These
I think
movies.
it is time to get to scores. To be honest, Ricky Flex. So, what do you give Avatar: The Way of Water?
This is very similar. The only I think days upon reflection, I'm still going to give this one the edge because I prefer the water over the forest. I do think the visuals in this one are better. I don't think it's like the technology caught up with us or anything. as in it was very visual, as in like, oh, new technology, there it is. Like, no, no, no. Like, I'm not gonna like pretend that like I saw that. No, I just prefer these visuals in the water over the forest. And I think the plot's, the same template, as you would say. If you put them next to each other, I couldn't be able to pick which was better. So I'm just gonna go. I gave Avatar 1 a 75. I'll give this one a 76.
Dude, I was gonna go up literally 1 point. I think I gave this one. I gave the first Avatar a 79. I wish I can go back and give it a 78 and give this one a 79, but I'm gonna give this one an 80, right? Just because like was sick in a theater, and that's definitely bonus points. Like in the IMAX 3D, it still shows it can work in 2022. It still plays, baby. And then like I would also say the performances are better in this movie. The acting is better in this movie.
Agreed.
And as I said before, some of these sequences in the third act and even in the second act, I've never seen in a movie before. It's truly spectacular to look at. So 80 out of 100 for me. So that's going to do it for our Avatar: The Way of Water review.